Welcome back, everyone. Our second matchup, our fourth final remaining game of the LPL Summer Split is upon us. Joining me on stage here, we've got Barento Raz Mohammed getting here in for this Snake versus WE match. And Raz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. This is the first time, obviously, coming onto this set. This is hilarious, by the way. I love it.
It's pretty great.
Yep.
Yeah, I love how we're in the rift. We're in the jungle.
I'm gonna smack you whenever I want to.
Hey, I feel all right. That's one. Let's get into our matchup. Snake versus WE are coming in here. Of course, with EDG's win, they have locked in second place. FPX still technically in fourth for now, but this is the deciding match for Snake. If they take a victory here, they snake the spot away from FPX.
That's a nice way to put it. They definitely have two chances. This is the advantage that Snake had, having a lot of their games coming up in the back half of the split, especially 2 games in 24 hours, 2 series that is. Not only do they have a chance going up against WE, but if they fail here, the safety net is there for tomorrow, because then they go up against EDG and they have a shot at them as well.
Yeah, and we've just saw today that EDG not looking to be in the best shape as they approach into playoffs. Yes, they did win the series, but they did show some uncharacteristic cracks in the armor that Snake could absolutely look to exploit after watching the film of this. But this is their best chance. WE is the losingest team in the conference right now. They are in 7th place. That's the only way to put it.
That's true.
And this is a team that was one of the best teams of 2017. Xie had one of the best splits of his life in 2018 spring, but something did not convert in summer. They did not move into the new meta where we saw dogpiling in Mage's bottom and absolutely ended up falling behind.
Have you played Mario Kart before?
Yes.
You know what happens when you start revving the wheel before you really get in towards the start?
Yeah.
And you just start turning around? That's the issue that came through. They had a really poor start at the split. They've shifted in a lot of new players coming in. The only roster choice that really stood still, that they really decided, hey, this actually makes sense for us, was actually missing the support player.
Yeah.
We saw a lot more of missing. He actually started off the split fairly strong. Came in with the same champion pools if you were to compare him to Ben. The only differences would be the Thresh, but we haven't been seeing Thresh anyways this split. But you're right. They started the split poorly. The mid portion of the split wasn't any better. The only difference would be between like the last 3 weeks.
Week 8 and week 10 was
Yes.
where we finally saw them start to get some wind in their sails.
We started to see them actually close games because they had early game victories, I suppose. Like they were doing very well pre-10 minutes, but then they would never close. They would get towards the Baron pit where they are known for team fighting historically, and then they would flop. So while you are correct, this should be heavily in favor of Snake. The big question is, where is WE currently bringing back what is a world semifinalist roster minus 1 player?
Yeah.
And should be where is the best point of the split for them. So this should go, in my opinion, it should go towards 3 games because Snake has had some faults in the fairly recent times as well.
Of course, coming off the back of Asian Games 2018, Xie picking up the gold medal along with the rest of the RNG roster and Mako is a pretty big confidence boost for Team WE. Xie's performance, while it hasn't been as spectacular as it has been during spring, it's probably been one of the least questionable members of the roster, and that creates a pretty big mismatch when you compare that with Snake, who have shown a lot of weaknesses in Guogul.
Individuals. That's why you're right when it comes to Team WE. A lot of our focus should go in towards the individual members because, as you mentioned, Xie's a damn gold medalist.
He's real good.
He's coming back to China studded in gold. And so the fact that you're coming back and you have something to show for your split, I would say, season of excellence for Xie, then going into this game, he has confidence at the very least that he can go up against Guogul and deal some real damage in lane. So laning phase, funny enough, should be in WE's favor. I would love to see some early game compositions coming out of WE in this specific set because it's a pride match for them. I know that they're still playing in Chongqing, but they have something to prove to their fans, to their audience members, that they can really take these members going into playoffs. Because if Snake goes into playoffs, then they have something to say. Exactly. They can talk some smack, say, hey, you know what?
We made it, you didn't.
Next split, spring split, we'll be ready because we at least took the top teams down as this split winded down.
And that's, I think, the difference between these two teams, because as you said, Team WE, they're playing for pride at this point. This roster, we don't know what's going to happen for the team moving into 2019 after all of the trouble that this team has gone through over the 2018 summer. And looking at Snake on the opposite side, this is a team that embraced the new meta. They embraced dogpiling. They embraced funneling. They embraced Mage's bottom. They looked at all of these new changes and said, we're going to play these new styles. And they have so much flexibility going into this matchup against Team WE, where, like you said, said for Team WE, they're still shoehorning themselves with late-game teamfight strategies that really flounder in an early-game meta, though luckily we are starting to get into longer game times.
To your point about flexibility with Snake, the issue of being flexible is that you don't come out and become a king at a certain style.
Yeah.
You're just a jack of all trades. Now, they were a king at giving SOFM the support necessary when it was a gold funneling strategy, and they went all in on it. Now I feel like they're really hurting in that regard because they're not having double supports. That's not a strategy you can utilize anymore because gold funneling got smashed. So as a roster, bringing Light in, you're probably looking back at the split saying if we gave him a little bit more time in the earlier weeks, we would have been better off because Light is a great AD carry.
Yeah.
The issue is just that putting him into the lineup, into what is a very unique style in this roster, takes time for him to get used to. It takes time for the team to get used to because while right now, and for splits upon splits, Snake has been used to putting gold and resources on towards SOFM and Flandre. If they can do that, if they're going to continue to do that, great. Then that means that Light has to recognize that he's going to play Ezreal and he's going to play it back. But Light is an aggressive AD carry. Light wants to be able to challenge people in lanes, and if you want that out of your AD carry, then a lot of changes have to happen in this team style.
Especially when you take the jungler into account, SOFM, who is very, very well known for tracking and invading the enemy jungle, finding out where the enemy jungler is, and denying them through constant vision, and just taking advantages by stealing camps away. You'll notice there's no ganking in that formula. There's no hovering around lanes. Now, we have seen him play some gank-heavy styles, but those have almost all been focused towards Guogo in the mid lane in an attempt to compensate for his expected laning weakness, as Guogo is the sort of player who likes to play Ryze, who likes to play Vladimir Nazir and sort of sacrifice that early laning phase so that he can make it to late-game team fights, which is so interesting when you consider the fact that SOFM just plays to himself.
And it's usually a help you, help me strategy, where he does go out and gank for Guogo, but it's usually because, hey, you're now in a great position in your own laning phase, and sometimes they don't give him good lanes. Based off that gank, great. Now you can help me take Raptors. So
exactly.
You could say it's like
that's the trade-off.
Exactly. That's the trade that you end up getting. So a lot of it, the importance of SOFM strategy is through what is the backbone of the mid lane. Now, this is probably the most, the biggest question mark you've had out of Snake's mid lane for quite some time, because throughout its history, I know we've seen quite a few mid laners. Just recently, it was Zatai, now being put into Guoguo, that you would have a lot of action coming out of the mid lane. You wouldn't second guess about an assassin pick, for instance, like can you play an Akali if it's open available? For Guoguo, you're almost damning him to an Orianna pick. And so I want to be able to see if there is some diversity going into a best-of-5 scenario if they do go into playoffs. This would be the best series to do that because he's going up against a CA who plays
Asian
a lot.
Games 2018 gold medalist.
Gold medalist.
Yeah.
He has a lot to show for him, including the unique champion picks that Shea has gone towards throughout the entire split. He's shown so many unique picks. He can either play the Cassiopeia that obviously wants to step forward as a control mage, or he can play the Talon that he did really early on in the split and just be a straight-out assassin.
Yeah, and there is a lot of opportunity for Team Snake to play through that mid lane because even at Asian Games 2018, Xie, despite putting on a couple of good performances, was similarly marred by a couple of volatile performances where he would overextend too far to greed for the kill onto Faker during the finals that we all remember. Xie is the kind of player who, when he's up, he's really up, but when he's up, or when he's not up, it's kind of wishy-washy. It has a difficult time landing, and with RNG behind him and the rest of the Asian Games team, they're able to cover and collapse on those mistakes. Currently, Team WE have not shown that they've got that capacity.
I think what Xie recognized in Asian Games was that he's a player that really required people to be supporting his style. A lot of the times, if he's pressing up and looking for those 1v1 kills, you would expect Kandi to be there. You'd expect maybe Missing to roam topside. I know the supports of WE a lot of times have gone towards the mid lane to be able to support their mid laners in that one, or support, let's say, Kandi, who's looking to invade a little bit. That's what Xie really thrived off of. So when he went towards Asian Games, he was in an environment where the team's strategy was not go mid, it was go bottom lane.
Exactly.
It was definitely not help you out.
No support in that
one-on-one. So maybe he comes out of it a little bit more mature, looking at this style saying, hey, maybe we can give more resources towards Mystic this time around in the laning phase. Because Mystic is great in team fights, no doubt about it. I think what we saw in Worlds 2017 was Mystic in lane phase dominating on the Caitlyn pick. I'm not saying pick Caitlyn, but I'm saying support Mystic in the early laning phase.
Yes.
There are two ways you can go about it. I think the best thing about a best of 3 is that you can try both, that they can go back towards their support Xie mentality. If it doesn't work, you can say, you know what? hand the mantle off towards Mystic later on in the series, and we can at least give that a try.
Yeah, you've got those two styles that you can choose to play towards if you're Team WE. We've actually got some updated standings for you after a result of our last game. Let's go ahead and bring those up, and we can see that EDG have now locked themselves into quarterfinals with that victory, guaranteeing at least second place due to the point differential head-to-head they have against TOP.
So 2 spots are still up for grabs. Tomorrow you'll get to see RNG versus JDG to find out who gets that second place spot. And of course today/tomorrow, Snake gets to find out if they're going towards 4th place. Snake needs to beat WE or EDG to land themselves into 4th place. There is no shot of point differences mattering at all. FPX actually have very poor points. So as long as Snake tie in the standings, that's it. They're in.
All it takes is one best-of-3 win, and that's why we're looking at this first matchup against Team WE, because as you saw at the bottom of the standings, Team WE have been eliminated completely from playoff contention. That happened, I think it was during Week 7, still during cross-conference. For that team. So still, they are seeing some growth now that they have been eliminated, now that they actually have nothing to play for. It seems as though they finally stopped caring about playing towards one specific style and going back to that style that worked for them. We used to call them the Elder Dragon team for looking for those late game team fights around the Baron Pit, around the Dragon Pit. Now that we're starting to get towards later game times, could that be a strategy for them to return to?
Yes, and also 957 can play some more tanks. That's what I love to see. One thing that you look towards the stats that actually remain consistent throughout the split is that in team kill participation, where a lot of the kills and assists are shared between multiple parties, WE were like top 3 in that. They were still losing games, but it showcased that isolated kills and deaths were just not happening. Yeah. That they were really focused on being able to find team fights as a squadron and be able to net wins off that. And hell, when they were post 20 minutes and a lot of their goal leads were just evaporating, it was as a team that they made calls around Baron and really failed at that regard. So you're right. Is it going to benefit them? Yes. That they can play their style later on. And remember, they're going up against Snake, a team that actually is much slower in game pacing. So this should be the best chance that WE has to net a victory at the end of the split.
Of course, they will have 957 going up against Flandre. You talked about the carry potential for Flandre in the top lane. Well, his opponent in this matchup is 957, who is one of the best top laners in the entire LPL at absorbing pressure. You can see the jungle returning for Team WE. Alongside them is Pepper. Xie, Mystic, and Ben round out the remaining 3.
There we go. Pepper and Ben coming in hot. We get to see if they're performing up.
Snake, it's Flandre, SOFM, Guoguo, Light, and Maestro. They've got 2 best-of-3s left, and a single best-of-3 victory gets them into playoffs.
And this is a roster that has remained consistent after coming off of the gold funneling strategy. So for them, an issue isn't about coordination as much as it is an issue for WE. Bringing in Ben is great. Bringing in Pepper is fantastic. You still have to play around their faults. You still have to play around what is Pepper's over-aggression at times. And so that's going to be something you have to watch and really keep track of for these 2 players. I mean, in the other point of view, of Snake, while I'm saying that it is not so much a team-coordinated issue, it's still an issue of communication. That's actually always been Snake's problems, I would say 2 years, for 2 years. Because when SOFM is in the roster, he wants to be able to make plays happen. Sometimes he'll end up dying in really questionable situations. And you'd be like, that's great. You actually were in a good position had you called your members adjacent lanes to be able to help you out. And the fact that we're still having these issues, week 11, 2018, it's a little bit unfortunate for SOFM in his career.
I mean, this is talking about Snake as a whole always being the dark horses of the LPL. This is the team that never really got to ascend to victory, that was denied their world spot in, I believe it was the 2015 playoffs gauntlet, where they got so very close and got denied by IMA, making their own miracle run. This is a team that has been to playoffs countless times, but has never taken a win, has never gone to an actual finals. So still, this growth that we're seeing from the team, how long do we chalk it up to the team looking towards growth, looking to trying these new styles and playing towards SOFM, as opposed to saying, hey, now it's time to do or die? When are we really going to see Team Snake step up and become true titans of the LPL?
They've always had a support staff that really just, gave them the whip in off season. Of course, we've had that famous
the coach.
Coach definitely smacking upside the head in their poor Demacia Cup rollings. and then going into multiple splits and then not performing up to what their own standards are postseason. So last split was probably the most damaging for them because they utilized the strategy going up against RNG that wasn't comfortable for them, but when they shored their comfortable strategies, they were starting to take victories or at least look very good in that series. A lot of the analysts coming out of that series said that Snake actually had a really good shot taking down RNG in that best of 5 had they went with what was comfortable for SOFM rather than going towards the trundle repeatedly. That's important because that means a lesson they learned is play to comfort. I wonder if we'll see that going up against WE.
And we'll absolutely find out as we get into picks and bans for this Game 1 between Team WE and Snake. WE find themselves on blue, Snake on red. Again, the two power bans of the LPL, Akali and Aatrox banned away on that red side, as Gragas, Camille, and Varus taken away. So still seeing that jungle bottom lane focus out of Team WE with their bans.
I would give Varus, honorary member of always on the ban list, but usually for red side because it's been a very strong blue side pick. Issue is Mystic and Varus just don't go eye to eye to each other. He just doesn't like to play the pick. Sometimes he'll play it, but those aren't his best games, so he's not comfortable on it. So that's something that WE immediately have to ban on their blue side. Good indicator, maybe as we go on to the best of 3, that we get to see more of that and Snake can try and zero in on that matchup.
Very strong priority rise for Team WE. Xie looking towards that in the mid lane, though it can be flexed to 957. Snake, they're showing us a very early Tom Kench first pick. Alistar is still open, but they're picking something safe in the bottom lane in Zed, or perhaps looking for some mobility with that Abyssal Voyage. Let's see what they decide to take alongside it.
WE's not too, they don't really care too much because Braum is still up and available, and Ben loves his Braum. This is going to be really telling for Snake if they go towards an AD carry pick here, because if they do, then this really tells the enemy team that they're not playing towards the bot side at all. I was expecting an Ezreal pick, but no, it's actually Jhin, so a lot of setup there in the bottom lane.
Very early priority towards the bottom half of the map from Snake with those two champions. But now Team WE, they see what that matchup is. They can look for their own counter picks here. As you said, Ben's Braum is still open. There's still the Alistar if he wants to look towards a more engage-oriented route. As Mystic currently taking a look at this Kai'Sa.
Wow.
And decides to lock it in. There we go. That's a very powerful champion in the bottom lane. And, ooh, WE, could they try to break it apart with a Blitzcrank? Or is Xie just giving us a bit of troll as he decides to scroll through?
This is a big call out to Snake that they cannot end it early if they go for the Alistar here. With 10 seconds to left, we'll see if Xie locks it in for Ben, because this is interesting. I'm expecting a Braum, there we have it, but the issue still arises here where you've locked in a Kai'Sa and Ryze blind pick. No, at least you know you're getting a bad matchup in the bottom lane for the Jhin. So you're getting pushed in if you're the Kai'Sa, and then in the mid lane, you know that Guoko is going to get the Orianna scot-free, knowing that it's a great matchup up against Ryze. So I wonder if WE are going to play this one cute, send that one Ryze top lane, as you already mentioned, that's a possibility. Or they just say, hey, actually, we don't care too much our own laning phase. We're just going to try and take it back and then try and hit you hard later.
And something scary that ends up being a result of that is Flandre's champion is still unknown. We're likely going to see the jungle next, picked up by SOFM, and Flandre will get his choice to counterpick into 957, one of the best carry top laners in the league, as Mystic, showing some uncharacteristic facial hair and freshly dyed black hair, is ready to move into the off-season with this second-to-last matchup for Team WE.
And so your point about Flandre's picks here is actually really important. The Camille was already banned out in the first phase, and Snake said we don't really mind about that just because Flandre has a large champion pool, but he's going to be hitting 2 more bans. Gnar makes a lot more sense. I wonder if they respect his Jax that much, because there is reasonable wave clear on Snake's end. You can make a mention of that Jhin Q, but definitely the Orianna is going to be some decent wave clear to actually get him split pushing. So we'll see if that's something he goes towards. I do not expect a tank pick for Flandre.
We see now the Cho'Gath banned away, so getting rid of those safe tank top laners for 957. And like you said, that Gnar already banned away for Flandre on the other side.
They're going to respect the
See
Jax.
what's next. The Jax is being looked at as we're getting now towards what could be the final ban. And it's actually going to be a Sejuani for SOFM. Banned away. Trundle is still open. Could be a priority pick. Now, we joked about it in the past as it being something that he was very uncomfortable taking against RNG, but now SOFM today, in the modern era, very happy on the champion.
Yeah, he's been doing very well on it. That was one of the lessons of, spring playoffs, was that he just needs more time. And if you needed more time on Trundle, let me tell you about Summer Split. Trundle galore. Everyone is playing the most picked jungler by far, and it really gave a lot of power to a Kindred because of the counter matchup. So for Trundle to come into it, and you already have the Jhin here, so that's a lot of great setup for the pick. I wonder if he goes for bottom lane really early on, because that is a possibility. But that all hinges on what Snake decides to go for Flandre really in the last pick.
Yeah, like you said, huge setup, pretty much any lane so far if he decides to go towards that. Orianna also able to synergize off of it very well. But the Jace blind pick from Team WE, interestingly enough, this can be flexed alongside that rise between both top and mid. It's been a long time since we've seen Jace mid, but hey, if it's taken, that could throw a wrench into Snake's plans if Flandre wants to look for counterpick. And now we're looking to see what Pepper takes in that jungle role. You mentioned his aggression, his propensity to invade and fight the enemy jungler. Well, Xin Zhao is a great way to do that.
Yeah, great way. It really doubles down on the fact that they want a strong top side of the map. I think it's going to be a Jace top very comfortably just because they know they have Xin Zhao, means that they're really focusing on the 2v2 there. So if they do get challenged with a counter pick, I'm expecting a Kennen, then it would be interesting. I'm not... Oh, Cassio is actually a fairly decent matchup in the top side of the map. We've seen it from Huni in the past in the top lane when he was on SKT, and in Europe as well. So there we have it.
Ooh,
Flandre
timer runs down. Yeah, Flandre taking a carry in the top lane, this Cassiopeia. It's going to have a tough time split pushing, but if she ever finds herself in a one-on-one, she does so much damage if she can play it correctly. And we know Flandre, he's very creative in the top lane. Maybe he's got some new wacky Cassiopeia build that can match this Jace's push threat.
But you could see how tunneled he was on the individual matchup. He found it so damn important that he was willing to pick up the Cassiopeia, knowing that he was going eye to eye versus Xin Zhao and Jace. So sure, both Xin Zhao and Jace have great gank potential, but you can tell that SOFM is going to be going topside, because any trade Cassiopeia goes for, she's going to naturally push because her toxic Q will push the wave. Toxic in two ways.
The noxious blast from that Cassiopeia. Katarina's sister trying to break things open, but as the coaches shake hands and make their way backstage, we get ready to load onto the Rift for this game one between Snake and Team WE. As Snake, they just need to win one best of 3 of this one or the game that they're playing tomorrow to lock down 4th place and get themselves into playoffs. All it takes is one victory, and against Team WE, the team that is the lowest in the standings of their conference, this is the best place to do it.
And they have the fans to back them. They're doing both of these sets in home venue of Chongqing. So if they end up losing this set, as unlikely as it is, they go up against EDG, and Snake fans are going to be chanting even louder. So we're in a great position for Snake. If they fail here, it is only their fault.
And they'll have to take that onus to succeed into this matchup against Team WE, because as you said, this match is in Chongqing. This is in the Snake Pit. They're in the home arena in front of the hometown crowd, but still plenty of WE fans crowd in to try and challenge this. As we load in, it lights up, and we get into our next matchup. The decider for 4th place. It's Team WE versus Team Snake.
Where did the invasion come from, Dom? The moment the camera panned over to the left, and you saw how many WE signs were just pointing them upwards towards the camera.
It came from Xion, Raz.
Those are dedicated fans.
Very dedicated indeed. But now we make our way out onto the map. And Flandre with the top lane Cassiopeia. Oh! First damage.
Go back to base. You're done, son.
He no longer has the time to recall. Doesn't use a corrupting potion though, just going to try and rely on some natural regeneration as it is airy for 957, phase rush for Flandre. But these early lanes, this early laning phase for Flandre is going to hurt.
For Flandre, it depends. Because it all depends on level 1, who gets to level 2 quickly.
Yeah.
We've seen how many lanes are just decided, the Cassio lanes.
By level 2.
Decided who gets level 2 first. Twin Fang is the usual start. Really, at this point, I do expect the Cassio to be able to get level 2 early on. Just depends if Jace actually walks up past the wave. If Jace has bush control, can walk up past the wave to actually harass the Cassio away from the wave, then that makes a lot of sense, and I think that Cassio is going to falter. She just doesn't have the trading power level 1 up against the Jace. That's where the real worry comes from, and I think that just depends on how 957 takes the matchup.
And that's the big question. As we said, 957 is one of the best top laners in the league at absorbing pressure, at taking ganks and deflecting them, taking waves and denying them. Against a player like Flandre, who wants to look for the solo matchup, who wants to look for the solo kill and opening up that lane through the Cassiopeia into Jace, the high damage into high damage. It's very straightforward what Flandre wants to do. 957, will he play it safe and deny it, or will he try to go aggressive to match it?
It draws some suspicion, honestly, from the top laners, because recognizing how linear this top lane matchup truly is, you start to question what SOFM's early pathing is going to be. Because SOFM is the type of jungler that doesn't say, well, this is how we're going to play it. We've seen so many pathings from junglers that just say, hey, we're having a full clear top side, and we're not going to go for a level 2 gank. The SOFM is the type of jungler to say, as a contrarian, I'm going to take my red, go top, level 2 gank on towards the Jace, and just make his life hell.
And I think that's a good way to put it, is that SOFM has largely been a contrarian in the LPL because he is so volatile in his pathing, in where he ends up going.
Yeah, and so for him to be able to take these matchups and, let's say, just turn it heavily in favor of Cassio, that should be his priority.
Yeah. We'll see what he decides to affect. Of course, that Trundle at level 2, very easy setup for that with the Tromp and the Pillar of Ice. Quick update for you folks at home with our pause. Xie reported an in-game issue. We're still trying to figure out what exactly that is and get it resolved as quick as we can so that we can load into this matchup. As the gold medalist, he's accustomed to playing under perfect conditions.
100%. So if you ever if he sees a dust, just a piece of dust on his screen.
A single piece of dust in the arena.
He will not even touch it. He deserves more respect than that. So,
well, hello.
Yeah, the camera didn't even give you time. I'm going to let you come right back in. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Quickly rushing that notes off stage.
That being said, he deserves a lot of respect.
Yeah.
So we'll give him some. I want to see what he could do bottom lane, because I already mentioned what impact the junglers can have in both side lanes, because the Trundle can either go for a level 2 gank top lane, but we've often seen him go for a level 2 gank bottom lane, especially when there's the setup of a Jhin pick. Jin's like, all right, well, I'm just going to either level up my W first.
Yeah, the Deadly Flourish.
Or we'll see how that ends up rolling. The Tahm Kench can just go for a flash Q for a slow. So there's just so much setup for both these solo lanes that SOFM is like, well, I can actually just go for any of it. Why would I go for a full clear top side if I can actually just go for a level 2 gank?
Yeah, I mean, even earlier today, we saw Mako's Tahm Kench taking that Glacial Augment. So even in that way, there's an opportunity for the Tahm Kench to flash Tongue Lash and slow a target down, and then Jhin lands the Deadly Flourish directly on top of it. But we have made it back onto the Rift. Looks like that pause was resolved.
Bring that chair back in.
I can reclaim my comfortable stool.
Yes, you can.
As we get into game, and it looks like Pepper starts himself off with a leash bottom, and SOFM is actually starting out on the blue buff and turning towards Gromp. So
Speaking
no cheesy
of
gank from him.
Yeah, but we're seeing some cheese. Pepper is not going the standard route. Where are you going, son? Oh, we know where you're going now. For a support to go for red trinket first, there's only one reason he's doing it.
Now, will Snake still step forward? SOFM, he's found Pepper in the river, drops down the frozen domain, and books it.
Yeah, so Trundle naturally is going to go topside. Maybe just go straight through the lane so he can get the Skull Crab there. Doesn't get contested. Speaking of contested, Xie, the gold medalist, mid laner.
The man himself.
Smacking him upside the head with auto attack.
Did Pepper just try to auto that?
Maybe. But Pepper knows what he's trying to do. Scuttle Crab. You see Trundle going through the lane. The expectation is that Trundle's trying to go for the Scuttle Crab, but he's like, nah, I'm taking both of them. So that's what you can do as a Xin Zhao when you know that the enemy jungler is taking a blue buff and you have red. You just have so much more skirmishing power.
So much threat from that Xin. to collapse. That knockup is so strong, not to mention the raw attack damage that Xin provides. But SOFM finds himself with both of his buffs, now going up for a Gromp. So it looks like this is going to be close to a full clear Trundle, as he has been denied early river control. We don't see a defensive ward yet from 957, as this lane is even between Flandre and 957.
This is just pure adaptation coming in from SOFM. He tried to go for the bottom side pressure, but obviously ain't going to happen. So naturally just going to be clearing top side. Krugs is the camp where you usually don't get contested on with how close you are to your own top laner, but Pepper's saying, I'm finding you no matter where you're going. Oh my goodness, wait a second.
SOFM's actually thinking about looping around top. 957 hasn't backed away yet. Once he steps up for one of those caster creeps, then that's the go signal for SOFM. You can see him pinging. Too. It's getting low.
You can go Miasma on towards their Jason.
He won't be able to flash immediately. Flandre. There's the wave coming in. Those minions, he's still not going for the minions, but look who's behind it. Pepper is actually coming up behind Flandre. Who is ganking whom? As SOFM drops the frozen domain. They see Pepper now, and the target is 957. Pepper has no chance to get towards him. A flash before the miasma. He leaps over the pillar, but first blood to Flandre.
957 played it surprisingly safe, and actually did a good enough job to just wait and buy time for Pepper, but the moment Pepper was caught out, going backwards instead of forwards to help 957 out was actually the mistake. And so 957 was left out to dry, and he died for it.
Oh yeah, and this is exactly what we were talking about in the mid lane. Xie is controlling this wave against the Orianna. Guoguo down to nearly 300 health. And she has nearly got him in kill threat. With the command dissonance, Guoguo has to back away and start his recall, and Xie is starting to push this wave in. Plus, there's no teleport on that Orianna. Xie already headed back to pick himself up the Fairy Charm.
Which is why Xie is getting a full clear on towards the wave. That's a big wave too. So a little bit of it was combined with the last wave, so there you have it. That's going to be completely denied away from the Orianna. And it gives Xie a chance to now go back to base and get his tier. That being said, he's in. Okay, there we go. He's going to base now. So good opportunity for Xie to really take a command of the lane.
Places a ward onto the Wolf camp to look for vision of SOFM. Now that was spotted out by Snake as they watched him push the wave within vision. So SOFM has a chance to get a bit clever as he drops the Scryer's Bloom and sees both of them. So they're still controlling this vision here, though WE will still end up getting vision of where SOFM is going to be pathing around this. But Xie did not buy himself the tier. He bought boots as he made his way out of base with that corrupting potion.
Aggressive state of mind. So you already saw what was the difference between him and Guoguo in the last few skirmishes in the lane. This wasn't walking fast enough. So
needs to get in range.
So that just is the difference between him walking up and not getting a damn thing off, or him walking up and getting a realm, or at least just being able to stun him.
Did he just walk up and realm warp?
Yeah.
I have never seen anything like that in the
I
history
meant
of Smash.
snare.
Yeah, exactly. The Rune Prison. That's the one. WE are still invading with this pressure that Xie is putting out, though, and this is the synergy that we wanted to see out of Xie and Pepper. That mid-jungle, as we heard in our earlier matchup today, is so important in determining how the early laning phase goes in the current meta. And Xie, with this lane pressure, is able to convert and collapse with Pepper.
It's just really isolating Guoguo here. The problem, it's not very apparent now because Guoguo took a positive trade versus Xie, but with how he's constantly been getting pushed in, sets up for a good enough dive. So now that if Xie can get a really good trade-off coming back in, now that he's picked up the tier coming back into lane, then not only are you in dive threat because the trades are working for Xie, but also the wave has been getting pretty much grouped up 2 waves at a time hitting the tower. So if I'm SOFM, place a few more defensive vision so you get an eye to where Pepper is going, because he can just go straight for mid.
And I think that's what we're starting to seeing, is there's a control ward placed top in Tribush and another defensive control ward placed top from SOFM to keep Flandre safe. But this constant vision tracking from Snake is enabling Pepper to maneuver around the map and allowing the lanes of Team WE to play safe in their own way. Now Guoguo will be able to pick up blue buff, as that's gifted over by SOFM, but it's constant tracking from Team WE.
Here's the thing about the 2 control wards you just mentioned about being placed topside to defend Flandre. It's the same situation where it's like, yeah, that might be able to catch out a few people who are behind you. But if they're behind you, it's
already too late. Yeah.
They're already in a bad position, son. So you need to be able to place the wards nearer, closer to mid lane, or at least have better communication stemming from mid, so that Flandre, if somebody's coming for his head, he knows about it soon enough, because these wards are not good enough to catch them.
Now, a new ward was just placed by SOFM in Pixel Brush on the bottom side as the wave pushes up for Flandre. They can see Xie is holding this wave in the mid lane as Gorgol with blue buff, finally getting a bit of push pressure back against that Rise. Also, the tier has been completed as well for Xie, so he's able to get himself some more consistent mana in lane. But still, Flandre is just happily pushing to his heart's content in the top lane. Already got the Catalyst and the tier and is set to continue scaling.
The Catalyst is the most important one. Gives him the bigger health pool and also the ability to trade a little bit more readily, knowing that the mana to health conversion is really nice. So that's what I like for Flandre. It's giving me a little bit more confidence to walk up to 957, but that confidence needs to be met with some more security from SOFM. So it feels like he's being called a little bit too frequently between mid and top, but that's good. That just means that Light and Maestro are in a really comfortable position. Now that they have a good CS lead, have started to push back Mystic and Ben and have teleports to their own name. So you're in a position where your bottom lane is not calling you at all. SOFM should just still be topside.
Looks like we've got another pause on our hands. We'll get that resolved as quick as we can.
Looking
at this.
Flandre is definitely pointing at his screen, was saying, "Wipe this dust off my screen, please, sir."
This one speck of dust.
This dust right here is impairing my vision.
I can't touch it.
Someone else, please.
Hopefully we'll get that resolved as we get into this. And looking at that top lane again, we were talking about Flandre taking a carry role for the team. I think the Cassiopeia is a bit unexpected. We've seen him play Jace. We've seen him play Vladimir. We've seen him play
We've seen him play a
Jax
lot
as well.
Things. But one thing that he's known to play is also just mage tops.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that leeway.
Rise, yeah.
Exactly. Wise, Vladimir. So he was the first one to bring the mage back to in the top lane when we saw the runes reforged really get changed to help out Spellbook. So there we have it. For Flandre, who, by the way, is correct, he reported an in-game issue.
Yes.
Maybe not the out-game issue of this, the dust. Maybe that was resolved. But for Flandre, who's played mages top in the past, he understands what kind of help and security he's needed to be able to get that across when he's played the Rise, for a good example. But Cassiopeia is an entire beast of her own.
Oh, yeah.
She is so damn slow.
Really unique.
Obviously can't buy boots at all, so movement speed is just not assured. You just actually just need people to help you out. So the control ward he has in his back, and actually the ward that he placed himself near the river, gives him a decent amount of security. He's just really hoping that the rest of the map is in position to make a play if, let's say, that ward catches someone heading topside.
Yeah, I used to be a Cassiopeia main for a summer. For
You
one
were-
very brief summer.
Wait a minute.
It was a lot of fun.
It
It was before the rework when she could still
Okay,
buy boots.
that's
And the thing that you would do was you would push lane, you would recall, you would get boots too with
Yep.
Sork boots, and then either tier or catalyst, and you would bait them with the defensive item saying, whoa, I don't do a lot of damage, but you were Cassiopeia. You land a Q, and then you just run them down with tier 2 boots. And that was the whole meta. It was pretty great.
That's fun. I feel like that's just the Cassiopeia state of mind and laning phase.
Yeah.
Is that if you're good enough to be able to land the Noxious Blast, you're like, excellent.
I've done my job, yeah.
That's the hard part.
The machine gun spells after that.
So for Snake, that's what essentially what their strategy is looking to be, is that their laning phase is their strategy. It's just a little bit concerning that Guoguo actually cannot work. His laning phase, which should be good for him, is now constantly he has in the back of his mind that there's going to be a jungler that's attacking me. So he can never really walk up and try and deal damage to the Rise.
Even in the event that their laning phase doesn't go well for them, they've got a lot of wave clear on their team. The Cassiopeia, the Orianna, the Jhin at maximum range, then Trundle and Tom Kench for mobility and engage if they want to try and turn, flank, and take any sorts of fights. So if they find themselves on the defensive, which it looks like that's what they're expecting, they have the ability to turn it back.
Definitely, I would say counter-engage and some wave clear out of the Orianna. Cassiopeia is a different kind of beast. Wouldn't say wave clear, but definitely just throw out the miasma and say, don't even walk near me.
Yeah.
The counter-engage is so damn strong that going up and trying to siege up against Cassiopeia or trying to defend your tower when a Cassiopeia is throwing down a miasma is super difficult, and you just have to be creative around it. Try and find a flank if possible. So it's to have a Cassiopeia, if you can try and move her across the map post 15 minutes, and Snake is ahead of the pace in that regard. Currently, they just have like a 100 goal lead. Not even, it doesn't even exist.
Barely anything.
But if they can actually get her moving, and if they have priority in waves, then Cassiopeia is probably your best bet at being able to nail these towers.
We'll see whether or not Snake decide to commit to that strategy. Of course, that will take unlocking the Cassiopeia. to happen. That's going to happen through SOFM, Guoguo, though again, there is still those teleports from Light and Maestro if they want to try to look for a fight up top, but WE seem to have responded. They're continuing to pivot off of Xie's pressure mid and use that to set up vision all around that top half. You can see the very deep control ward in front of the red buff of Team Snake. With all of that, though, that means that bottom is relatively sparse in vision. Only now are Xie and Pepper starting to step up to try and reclaim some control over here, where Snake have already taken all of this vision.
You can just see how confident Maestro and Light are, even with the not that strong vision on the bottom side of the map, not even having flash for the Tahm Kench. Cleanse and teleport, just so he's there, can provide enough safety for Light, but if he himself were to get caught off guard, then he'll likely die in that case. So you can already see that Light and Maestro have actually put so much into protecting the top side of the map if Cassio were ever to get caught off guard with a double teleport, that they themselves are just saying, we will do well enough for our own lane. So that answers the question we had for Light coming into this game, of what his role was going to be, and the answer to that is just try and play supportive and not die in the early laning phase.
We just saw a feigned dive from Team WE down onto the bottom tier 1 turret, which had Light and Maestro back away. SOFM went to top lane to secure that first Rift Herald, 10.5 minutes in, very early take, but that does leave the Dragon undefended and leaves bottom to inevitably be dived regardless. They're still chasing it under as Maestro spits out Light, the long delay, but they still get it. Mystic finds himself the kill, make that a double as he drops Maestro as well.
But they're going to pay a heavy price. Sure, you got a double kill on towards Kaisa, which is phenomenal, but now you've lost your mid lane, outer turret. The inner turret's going to take a massive hit in 3, 2,
Oh, that one hurts. Down to half health. And still the turret working through this minion wave. With no Realm Warp, Xie has forced to walk. He did have teleport, but decides not to use it as he finally auto-attacks. And Ben teleporting down bottom as they're trying to finish this off. He actually cancels the teleport so that Mystic can get first brick. Doesn't get solo gold. That ends up getting split between himself and Pepper. Oh, sorry. No, that was Snake who got first brick. In that mid lane with the local gold to Guoguo and SOFM. So still it is traded back 1 turret for 1.
So while it is a trade, it is a great position for Snake knowing that they got the mid lane outer turret and they got a big hit onto the inner tower. Gives a lot of relieved pressure for Guoguo and technically relieved pressure to Maestro as well. Losing bottom lane tower means that he can actually move a little bit on his own. So for Snake, protecting Guoguo has gotten so much easier, and also moving through mid lane to then siege with the rest of your carries has actually just been enabled. So great point for Snake. Just means that WE with the trade that they have to make use of it off of Mystic, because Mystic got the bulk of it.
He's sitting real happy right now. 1,100 gold ahead of Light in the mid lane. It's even in gold with that first brick, keeping Guoguo close to Xie. Pepper happily ahead of SOFM, and in the top lane, it's still pretty close to even between 957 and Flandre. But like we said, this keeps Guoguo so much safer in this mid lane, and that has been a big question for Team Snake, how they play around Guoguo. They set up tons of vision around the mid lane right now. It looks like chickenpox on the map. Just red dots popping up everywhere.
A lot of teleports are going to be expended here. You already saw Maestro going topside. It's because WE initiated the lane swap with 957 going bottom lane. They want to have Cassiopeia match that. Surprisingly enough, as you can see, Light just doesn't have teleport because he had to use it defensively bottom lane anyway, so he's going to have to take the long walk topside. Might just miss one minion. The cannon minion should be safe. Worst case scenario, Maestro just gobbles it up and then sends it over to the Jhin. That's a possibility.
And delivers, yeah.
So that being said, that means that WE are going to have a little bit of time. Jace moving towards mid lane just because he has the time of being able to push that first wave of Cassiopeia. Might mean that they make a second crack at Guoguo.
Yeah, and here's the constant trade-off that we're seeing from Team WE and Snake is, yes, Snake are getting there first. They're the ones who are setting up the vision, but WE are still maneuvering around inside of that vision. If there's ever a lapse from Snake, or if WE are able to dodge that vision in some regard, then like you said, they can take another crack at Guoguo. They can look for Flandre, who's trying to split push bottom with no tier 1. Oh. And there goes Xie. Level 2 Realm Warp. He's over the wall. Miasma slows it down. 957 pins him back. And Flandre lands the phase rush and is kiting it out as best he can. Flash snare. And Xie gets the kill.
They knew that Cassiopeia was just trying to buy for a little bit more time for Ori and the Trundle to come through. That would have to be a lot of time because you see they were nowhere nearby. So they just get the flash across and get the kill. Light and Maestro are also under danger here. Pepper is moving towards the top side.
All it takes is that one lapse in vision from Team Snake to net WE another kill, as Archangels finished off for Xie. SOFM continuing to maneuver around with the dead man's Ninja Tabi.
Maybe they can make something happen now, but you already see through the control ward, they've been caught out. So much defensive vision for WE to keep their lane safe, but they're going through regardless. Here comes a sped up SOFM.
Yeah, could be looking for Ben and Mystic rushing into the vision. Mystic stands his ground, though. He's got Pepper nearby, and Teleport is ready for both Xie and 957, which could potentially turn this into a 5-man.
You can already see how dangerous these side lane missions are for Snake. You don't want Cassiopeia to go past the second wave underneath the bottom lane, just because you already saw with the Rift Herald Plague, Realm Warp. My goodness, please.
You were having a real tough time with Ryze's abilities.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe. I have a dream that someday I'll get it right. But Realm Warp, you already saw that last play being able to just get behind enemy lines and be able to take down Flandre. It shouldn't be that creative because with how much vision you can already see being placed bot side, it just means Pepper can just go around the Cassiopeia. So she has to be aware with how far she extends past bottom lane, while at the same time top side, Kaisa is such a great solo laner in being able to put yourself in a side lane, especially up against the Jhin. So if you keep her alone topside versus the Jhin, she's going to look for the kill.
And this is constant strength from Mystic in this laning phase, a full 20 CS ahead of Light, his opponent. And now we're actually seeing Snake make a rotation towards the mid lane. No flash, that's the Abyssal Voyage. Xie is looping around towards the Jhin. That's the flash, Pillar of Ice. But over the wall, he gets the Realm Warp. Can he get out in time? He's just over the side. Even with Light landing the Force Bullet, they can't catch him. And Xie outplays to walk away.
So close, but you see how desperate Maestro was, flashing in to at least get him in his stomach to CC him out of the ulti. Not even close, buddy. Xie gets himself out of there, and so at the very least, Snake could say, okay, we'll get mid lane priority and we can look towards the next dragon. It's a Cloud Dragon, but for what composition Snake have, they have to force WE into these larger areas around these neutral objectives.
Of course, that'll be up to WE to control the vision around those objectives and try to combat that of Snake, because after that push, Snake, there's not a lot of vision on the bottom side, and Xie, with no Realm Warp, is thinking about making a return trip to Flandre's lane, especially now that he's got no mana. Now, Pepper is invading on the other side, so that might give a bit of courage to Flandre if he wants to step up, and instead he just clears the wave and backs away.
I wonder what the strategy is here for SOFM, because usually you want to get that next dragon and roll the dice for the next one and force the enemy team to look for the next dragon, or just play around these larger objectives, especially once it gets to 25 minutes into the game and you can start forcing for, like, let's say, an Elder Dragon. But at this stage, he's just fishing for kills. He's going topside to defend the Jhin and Tom Kench, but then looking around mid lane to see if he can get a kill off of, let's say, Orianna throwing out a Q and then ulti. Not really getting much out of it.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a hard committal CC from Team Snake. I mean, we've already seen how they struggle with hard engage, trying to chase Xie down out of that mid lane. So perhaps it might be Snake having to play the cerebral game and baiting Team WE in around those objectives, as you've mentioned. They've already shown they've got excellent vision control, which we can see once again around that Baron Pit, around the top side river, which is keeping Light and Maestro safe to absorb this pressure from Mystic and Ben. But it's starting to lapse in the bottom lane, and Flandre is starting to push up once again.
What I would love to see is, SOFM support Gogo get the push off in mid, which is easy to do. He had illusions. So he's in a great position to just push mid, and then they can feign towards the dragon. Net the dragon, look for the next one. That should be the strategy. It should be going quickly. SOFM is just wasting time on the map.
Just constantly maneuvering around, trying to match the vision that Ben is placing and contesting for. And still top is being held. Mystic getting closer and closer to his Gnasher's Tooth, is feeling pretty happy with this AP Kaisa as he's pushing that wave in over and over, and Light is pretty content to continue to catch these waves with the Storm Razors ready to proc for big fourth bullet hits.
But now Realm Warp is up and available, Teleport's up and available for Eyes, so he can actually look for top lane a little bit more reasonably. That was a ghost being used when someone had
Maestro.
Okay,
he
there
has
we go.
unsealed spellbook, so it's reduced duration on his flash coming back.
Makes sense, makes sense. Wondering where that was coming from. I was like, I'm pretty sure no one had ghost. But now with WE, they should be a little bit more aggressive looking for top lane tower. They have the ability to take Rise and ship him top lane, they should use it. In fact, you see where Light is currently. He's aware that's a possibility. He's just surprised no one's pressing it now.
Still sitting very far back. That's even the blue trinket being used over the wall just in case there is a dive. Will spot out Pepper as 957 is busy pushing in bottom. SOFM is racing to try and defend, but the wave is already pushed in. Pepper prepped for the dive, walks through to zone away Light and Maestro, but SOFM pins him around with the Pillar of Ice. Crescent Slash to reset the fight, but the turret has finally been broken. WE have gotten what they came for.
There we go. That was easy. In fact, Xie going into Fog of War, he didn't even have to fully commit to make the top lane tower go down. Snake recognized that he was possibly going to be there, even had the Realm Warp, so he could show up at any time. So now it just means that Xie can go back mid, collect the wave, and now their focus goes in zero zone towards the mid lane tower.
And suddenly Team WE get a little bit more control of the map. They're going to be the ones who control this dragon over here. They are leaving Baron completely undefended as it spawns. They've got a ward just in front of the pit that appears to be a scuttle crab, but a control ward inside of the pit sees that it is Bear.
But you see, with Cassiopeia being bot side, that Baron is actually very difficult for Snake to take.
Yeah.
Jhin is not good at being able to net it down. And so for Snake, they really need to have Cassiopeia top side if they want to feign or at least pressure WE around Baron buff.
Ooh, Shockwave misses Mystic. Squirgle looking for some damage. With a Void Seeker, he knows there's no Shockwave. Dissonance Flash Auto doesn't land the final Plasma Tick, but he's ready with the next level of Void Seeker, trying to get through the minion wave. Lands it, but Guogua with the delayed shield and Flandre nets the kill.
Mystic bounced himself a little bit too hard. Didn't even know how 4 people were right behind him that quickly. He was like, maybe I have an exit strategy. But you're right, Abyssal Voyage right behind him. And there were already members that were tagging along, so great position for Snake as they have the Flandre, the Cassiopeia, and are right behind the Baron.
Now Xie is on the top side. A lot of this vision has been cleared out, but Snake decide not to overcommit. They're playing it safe, playing around this vision from Team WE to really deny them, but still Xie is maneuvering around the backside. He's been spotted, they know he's there, and now they're going to step onto the Baron. Now the Guogua is back up. Mystic has respawned. He's racing out of the base, but he has a long way to go to try to catch up. Flash slow, but they found Xie. He's able to shield himself up, flashes away. The poison Noxious Blast doesn't catch. He survives. Mystic is nearly there. Baron at 7,000 health, and WE force Snake back.
That was disastrous. They saw that he was that close to death and thought that the final kill could actually be net, but that was not even close. In fact, had the shield on top of him.
They're trying to force this. Xie back at full health, makes his way out. They've got it down to half. Remember, they've got a mountain. They've got a Kaisa with 2 items. Down to 3,000 health. Xie zones, looking for Flandre. He's split, saved by Maestro, who flashes away. Shockwave onto 2. Pepper and Ben reset as Xie looks to step forward. And Team WE don't find any kills.
W has a very squishy composition, and Ben does not have HP. They cannot turn back on towards his Baron. If they do, it's very risky.
Mystic firing the Void Seeker, and they're going to attack it at range. Pepper soaking these hits. This is in vision of Team Snake. Somehow they've got it over the wall. It's a command attack from Orianna, down to 2,000. That's the curtain call, 15,000. SOFM not able to steal it. Goes golden with the Zanyas, but smite secure from Pepper. As SOFM back against the wall, will die to Mystic. The Realm Warp chase for Xie. This time he's going to catch up to Maestro and Mystic. This time he's able to get the kill. Killer Instinct locks it down. Team WE get the Baron and get 3 kills.
And this is not the level of confidence we saw from WE in the first few weeks of the split. But you can see the growth that they have as a team, especially around Pepper, that they just doubled down on the Baron pit, knowing that if Snake tries to fight them, that Xie and Mystic were strong enough to bite back. Well done to net the Baron, and now should be able to barrel down through the mid lane.
They make their way out of base, fresh items in tow. Morel and Omicron completed for Xie is real big. The Maw of Malmortius and Yomu's for 957. The Nashor's Tooth for Mystic. Things are looking good for Team WE fans as they're set to play their second to last match, this Pride match for the team that has been eliminated from playoff contention, as they're trying to reclaim control in this, but still they need to use this Baron effectively to break the base of Snake.
And this was the worry that we had for Snake going up against WE, that it was going to be decided around these large Baron fights. And so Cassiopeia actually turns away, and Xie gets his largest shield at the moment that the rest of the team decides to leave it to Cass. And so that was really damaging. Xie is able to survive, come back in, and they go around for a Baron fight with Xie fully charged.
Now they're looking to use this Baron and break through Snake. Open their way up towards some tier 2s. They've got 957 split pushing with teleport. Ben on the side with the Winter's Bite, forcing Snake back as the wave crashes in. They've still got plenty of wave clear with that Orianna and Jhin. Plenty of denial engaged with the Tom Kench and Trundle. But nobody is answering 957 yet. He's getting a wave all the way up to the tier 2. And finally, Team WE make the rotation. Mid-tier 1 broken, bottom tier 2's next on the list.
Now, easy to take, knowing the cast was all the way up top lane, and the rest of the team was actually just hold up mid. So they're actually going to barrel this one down and towards the inhibitor tower.
Yeah, nobody's defending this inhibitor tower yet from Snake. They haven't seen anyone in rotation yet. A ward over the wall will look towards it, but finally Guo is the one who looks to respond, and Team WE decide to take it safe and back off.
Snake recognizes what happens if they send more than just one member to defend the bottom lane inhibitor tower. If they do that, they lose inner tower mid easily. They want to try and slow the pace of this Baron rush. They have to do it here now.
They're certainly trying to. That's the Cassiopeia and the Jhin slow onto Light. Devour still ready, but Xie walks up through the wave. A snare locks him into place. He's slowed. Good petrifying gaze onto 2. Xie forced to back out of this one. The Noxious Blast gets the kill as he dies, but meanwhile, Mystic's been doing good damage to SOFM. Light with the curtain call finds some more as Team WE overextend just a bit too much off of the back of Xie getting caught.
And that's the last bit of their Baron. There should be the last wave. It seems like they're going to double down on it.
They've still got that Mystic, and he appears as though Mystic is locked in place, pinned against the wall, and a Shockwave baits in Pepper to defend this. Flandre chases it down and comes up with a double in one of the best pillars I have ever seen.
Oh my God, Mystic.
He's able to turn up to SOFM and Light, who overextend to take this. Look at how much he's healing with this huge fleet footwork, and still Mystic equalizes.
He's getting chased down by the Trundle. He took down the Trundle. Also getting chased down by Light because they thought it was a 2v1, but he took him down as well. So Mystic found himself literally back against the corner.
Yeah.
Had to flash over the corner.
In between a rock and a hard place.
And then net down a double kill while being chased down by the entirety of Snake. So really well done by him. I was almost expecting him to pause. We've already seen a few of those already in this game. But no, he just takes what happened. You know, recognized that was a bad situation and was able to make a lot out of it.
Perfectly pinned to the wall. SOFM lands the massive, massive pillar. And now he's finished off that Gargoyle Stone Plate. Now he's going to be nice and tanky. But he needed to have that item just a second ago as
That was
Mystic.
insane. That was actually just ridiculous. So take a look. I hope we get to see a closer look at towards Mystic because sure. Yeah, Santa Claus. Maybe they just wanted us to
Double
see Santa Claus
Noxious
dying.
Blast from Ben and
I just
Pepper.
wanted to see the double kill, man.
It was WE getting baited in to defend Mystic as well. He was fine. Perhaps maybe he didn't communicate that, which led to Ben and Pepper stepping up to try and defend him. Again, the two younger members of this roster.
Of course. Still wanted to see the double kill from Mystic, but we just saw Santa die in front of our eyes. Hope we don't get to see that too often. We're getting closer and closer to December. That's not really a time to do it.
You're absolutely right.
Thank
Here
you.
it is. That's
I
the
love
one.
you.
Literally just continuing the play. SOFM and Light step up.
So SOFM
Mystic.
is
Ooh.
right for Light, actually.
Ducks back in and kills Light before he can get an auto.
Remember he has Guinsu, so his passive comes up right quick. That's
Oh,
easy
yeah.
to be able to do. And Light just didn't expect that last bit of damage. At least thought the one auto attack would keep him up alive, but no, that was all that was really needed.
Just takes a few auto attacks to start landing those plasma on AP Kaisa, and then goes for the Banshee's Veil third to make sure that he's safe, and then Azanya's Hourglass. It's not the massive AP burst Kaisa, but it's still going to do a lot of damage in these fights, and most importantly, be very difficult to kill.
Yeah, in solo queue, we see a lot more Rabadon's death cap, but the reason why it's just not viable once you get to this stage and play is just because the recipes to get the Rabadons is very hefty in cost.
Double NLR.
While at the same time, being able to just keep your lead really in a safe place means that Banshee's Veil and Zhonya's usually see one or the other, not both. Just makes it so there's no way for you to possibly get dived. So team coordination should actually just make up for the rest. So for Mystic, going Banshee's Veil, how do you touch him? We already saw Flandre getting great ultimates across in the last two team fights. You're not going to be able to net Mystic if he has a Banshee's Veil.
And with that push from Team WE, they break out the top tier 2. Xie forced to realm warp away. There's no petrifying gaze, but the pillar provides a disruption and forces him to flash over the wall. SOFM has these interactions down pat, as again he forces another member of Team WE to burn a flash with the use of that Pillar of Ice.
It's always close by Xie. You know, if Xie is going in the bot side of the map, he's leaning bot side. Xie is going top side to split the top lane, he's leaning top lane. Just because you don't want the Rise to ever be in a comfortable position pressuring in a solo lane.
Yeah.
And Trundle is a great answer to it. Just send down the pillar and you're good. So, good eye coming in from SOFM, and by a result, burns Xie's flash.
Now we can see a 4,500 gold difference between AD carries. Mystic is massive in that mid lane. It's a 2,200 gold lead for Xie. And these carries are real big. Looking at this next big fight, but Baron has spawned. Snake make their way back out onto the map. They've given up as little as they can, dropping all of the tier 2 turrets. But now it comes down to this Baron for Team WE. They're trying to set up control. Once again, they've got 957 split pushing with teleport, and top lane looks to be building towards them.
Now that we have a little bit of time, let's talk about the defensive options. Xie and Mystic both have the Banshee's Veil, as I already mentioned. The Zhonya's getting completed by Mystic. The 957 picking up Ma Mortius really early on. Pepper himself getting the Sterix Gauge. So there's no real correct answer if you're Snake, wanting to nail down a specific member who is, you know, isolated, vulnerable. For WE, they've all individually have those defensive options.
Now Snake are going into the pit. They're not hesitating and pushing in. Teleport gets 957 in, but Pepper is behind them. Good slows on the Maestro. They do see him with that blue trinket. He's got a blast cone if he wants to try to reset over the wall. Holds onto it before hopping away. And Team Snake decide to back out.
Pinging towards the mid lane inhibitor tower, they have taken a great position, are now forcing Snake down a very long path. Or they're just going to get poked by the Jace. So now they've actually made a very good mind game. They're pushing towards the... That should be a very quick
That's a realm warp onto the Baron. They've already got a mountain in massive shred with the Kai'Sa down to half before you can say, what the heck, they have that ability. And bringing up the door just in case, though the curtain call attack will land. Baron picked up by WE. Xie wants some more, though. He gets a slow onto Maestro. Good stun from Flandre. He steps up at an exhaust. Saved by Maestro. A Shockwave finds the carries on the side, but Mystic is looking for the killer instinct. Lands one, chases Flandre down, and finds himself another kill. Maestro gets slowed and dies to 957. Ben with the Flash Winter's Bite misses. What a snipe! As Guo flashes right in line with a Void Seeker. Ben still doesn't land that Winter's Bite, but doesn't need to because WE with the Baron are pushing onto the inhibitor.
That was just so damn sick. This should be the end of the game, by the way. These are very long death timers. But the mind game WE had, pulling Snake away from the pit, saying you actually have to defend your inhibitor. We're going straight towards it. Saying, no, just kidding. You actually went so far off to try and defend your inhibitor that we've just round warped to the Baron, net the Baron, and forced Snake in such a desperate situation. Well done, WE. We did not see this kind of a play from WE for a good majority of the split. And so they're showing to the rest of the world, and apparently their new home venue, Xi'an has invaded this venue here, that we are who we are today. We are a very strong team.
And while we might say that currently they are the lowest team in their conference at 4-13, if they're able to take their next two victories, they'll move up to 6-13 ahead of Team OMG and a single loss behind Snake, who are currently vying for playoffs. If we consider the potential wins that this team could have had, if they had just taken one or two more wins, they could be the team fighting for that fourth place spot as opposed to Snake, as opposed to FPX.
It's just an unfortunate time for WE because they've had so much to deal with since spring split, since the beginning of spring, where they had to really have a lot of changes in the jungle position. Hello, how you doing?
Doing great. My shirt's tucked in.
There we go. All nice and tidy.
Yeah.
That now they found themselves where they're being able to feel more comfort around Pepper in the jungle spot, and they can bring in Condi with a little bit more of effectiveness. So WE, more comfortable with their 10-man lineup, their roster that they can ship, but obviously it's too late. It's week 11. But at the very least, is going to put in a few wrenches to Snake's plans.
I mean, that's what we were talking about before the matchup, because this is a match for the fans of Team WE. Yep. This is what we almost want to call the martyrdom, because as we said, they cannot make playoffs. They can only play for pride, only play for themselves. And now that they do have the opportunity to do that, suddenly we're seeing them return back to the old styles of the team, playing towards those team fights, allowing Mystic to carry, but also supporting him in these ways by keeping his lane safe, allowing Xie to constantly invade through lane pressure with Pepper.
And we saw what is every stage of WE in the last 2 years in just one game. 957 playing a carry in the top side of the map where he can actually perform versus a very competent top laner. We also saw bottom lane Mystic be able to perform super well, not in just the laning phase, but also just in team fights, as you see, just being able to net down double kills on his own when he's getting chased down, apparently with a rock. 2 rocks being able to nail him down. That was awesome to be able to see. But you just see each and every member actually performing at their peak in just one game. So if you're Snake and you're going into game 2, you see so much flexibility that they can just decide to play towards 957 with how he played in this game. And this is the play that we were mentioning with Mystic because he was a baller from start minute 1 to the end of the game. And
I love how he uses the adrenaline rush and doesn't turn away before going invisible. This is something that Vayne players do, that Kai'Sa players do the same thing, where they run in one direction. The good ones will go invisible and then turn. Whereas the beginner players, they're the sorts of players who will turn and fade back as if they're going to turn away, then go invisible, preparing the enemy for that sort of play. So Mystic showing his expertise on the champion here with his matchup. But still, we got to talk about what this means for Snake, because yes, it's good to see Team WE take the victory in game 1, but they're the team that's been eliminated from playoff contention. WE are still fighting for it. And
Snake are still fighting for it,
Team Snake are still fighting for it. If Snake lose here, they're not out yet. They still have one more chance, but that chance is against Edward Gaming.
It doesn't get easier, does it?
It does not. It gets significantly more difficult.
And it feels like it's just going to be really sectioned around these team fights, an issue that Snake has had because they're a team that wants to play a longer game. But you have to know what a longer game means, that you have to be deciding to play around these team fights. So if you're a Snake, you have 2 options. You can go towards what's worked with you historically and put Flandre on a split push carry. This is what we saw, at least in this game, we saw a team fighting top laner. You know, that's also a carry pick. So if you're doing that, you just have to play better in team fights, but they're not playing better in team fights versus WE. In the last few weeks, they've actually just been losing out in team fights time and again. So we need to see a Snake that is either getting significantly better in 5 minutes time going into game 2, or what they should do. Get that Band-Aid across, give Flandre a top lane carry that is also a split push. You might not get Camille, but you will probably get the Jax.
I mean, that could be the way to do that. We've got that final fight for you to take a look at so that we can see how things were shaking out for Team WE. And from here, they get the Baron, and Chie decides he wants a fight. And even though there was a great Petrifying Gaze and Shockwave, it just wasn't enough.
Because what was buffered was Ben's ultimate, being able to net down the slow, but also the knock up onto its Cassiopeia. So she was in a very damning spot. So she loses a lot of her HP just on her own engage alone. And the ultimate that Oriano placed down, you already saw, exposed her, doesn't have the damage. So guess who did have the damage? In fact, a 111% damage to cold efficiency and 34% of damage percentage of his own team. Mystic did so much this game. He was a major carry once he actually got the double kill in the bottom lane. And then they knew as a team that they needed to play around him.
And that's something we have to talk about as well, was that Team Snake never really had the chance to shut that Kai'Sa down. It was a relatively safe laning phase due to Xie's constant pressure, and anytime Snake would get vision, Team WE seemed to just play safe around it, or Snake never seemed to capitalize on the vision that they did set up. So, yeah, but that was a bit of a disco play there.
But the one thing that I want to see for Snake, if they are in a position where, you know, they get the advantage in mid lane, they have the mid lane push, SOFM needs to be a lot more aggressive. Step forward. The Cloud Dragon is something you don't want to take, then go top lane and try and fish for some snares or stuns on towards the Jhin. Jhin's been sitting passively for how long? You can make plays around him if possible.
Accelerate
in that game. But of course, if you're going to change strategies, then at least play to your strategy fully. And I want to see that coming out of game 2.
Well, we'll see what that's going to be. We're going to go and take a quick break while we get that game 2 ready for you. Don't go anywhere. The LPL is going to be right back.
过去的荣光就留在记忆中。WE 要追逐新的胜利，